Hey guys, we're going to talk about a case that involved a lawyer, Paul Correa. He was arrested for filming children at a Target. It's it's just a horrible story. Sometimes these individuals, these predators, put themselves in a position of trust and then they violate those positions, but they figure those positions of trust they can hide behind. You see it all the time with predators. They hide behind the position of a priest, a teacher, a lawyer. I'm going to show you a video from Law and Crime, and then we're going to break down this whole case. Let me just show you this first. All right. There we go.
Was in the store. He thinks that I was in the store recording his daughter with my phone. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. Okay. I was in here buying gifts for a holiday party.
What would make them think that you were recording?
That I had my phone out.
An Arizona County Attorney.
Just want to say one thing. There's no certainty in this statement, so he's not really even outright aggressively denying that. He's got his hands up like he don't know. Like he can't even stand by his own statement that he wasn't doing that. Watch this again, just to show you this part.
He thinks that I was in the store recording his daughter with my phone. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. Okay. I was in here buying gifts for a holiday party.
What would make them think that you were recording?
That I had my phone out.
An Arizona County Attorney has suddenly found himself on the wrong side of the law, accused of filming minor girls in a Target and then, well, doing something in his car afterwards. We have the body cam, the police report, we have the witness statements, and we got our hands on the prior history of Paul Correa as we break down this new bizarre case out west. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. We got our hands on this body cam footage of the moment that police confronted a now former county deputy attorney out in Arizona on allegations that he was filming a girl in a Target store and then, I don't know the best way to say this, allegedly doing something in his car. So we're talking about former Cochise County Chief Civil Deputy Paul Correa. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, what does this guy do? This is a guy who, according to what appears to be his LinkedIn, is the general counsel for government operations, deals with regulatory compliance, contract review, AI issues, basically advised the county on legal matters and was its lead litigation attorney. He's a big deal. Now, the video that we're talking about here is from December 17th, 2025. It's only a few weeks ago. It's outside of a Sierra Vista Target, and this is when police show up after there is a disorderly conduct report. You see, the allegation was that 59-year-old Correa was following a young girl in the store and recording her, and then allegedly watching that video in the parking lot with, quote, this is from the father in this case, the father of this young girl, that he observed Correa, quote, with his pants disheveled. I don't think I have to put two and two together about what the allegation here is, but unfortunately, I'm going to get a little bit more specific. So, according to 13 News, KOLD, an employee of the store called 911. Why? Because there was an allegation that there was a car blocking another car in the parking lot. Turns out the father of this young girl allegedly blocked Correa's car, seemingly so he couldn't leave. I want to go to the body cam, okay?
Real quick, how lucky is that Paul Correa? He's lucky the cops got there. Imagine if that was not caught by the employee. I mean, you do that to any one of my daughters, it's on. It has to be on. It's your daughter. So he's lucky the cops came. He's lucky that he was arrested. That father was going to get his own justice.
This is going to be a key piece of evidence. Let's go to the body cam, piece by piece, hear of the interaction. And I got to say, the way it starts off, kind of tense.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, how are you? Take your hand out of your pocket. Something around your waist. Come to the front of your car.
Sure.
What's your name?
My name is Paul Correa.
Okay, have a seat right here.
I prefer not to say.
Okay, well, yeah, lean up against your car.
Why?
Because I'm telling you to.
Okay.
It's either that or you can go have a seat in the back of my car. So I'm trying to control. I don't know what's going on. So lean up against your car with your butt, and just kind of sit and relax for a minute while I figure out what's going on. While I watch him. Because I'm the only guy here. I don't know what the hell is going on.
All right, sorry.
So what's the issue today?
he thinks, well, he can give you a statement. He thinks he saw something. He's confused. He's angry.
What's he confused or angry, or what does he think he saw?
He thinks that I was in the store recording his daughter with my phone. That's not true. It's absolutely not true.
Okay. So now the question is, what is going on in this parking lot?
How did this transpire now in the parking lot? People are blocking each other.
I was sitting here calling my son to say the pizza place is closed in there, so what do you want to eat? Okay. And then all of a sudden he's banging on the door, telling me, I don't know what, he's just banging on the door real hard.
Okay. What's he saying?
I don't think he was saying anything comprehensible. So it's like, I think he was telling me to come out of the car. It's like, who are you? And he wouldn't say who he was.
Was there some kind of altercation in the store?
No, absolutely not.
So you have a father of this minor girl arguably trapping Correa in the parking lot. And this is the part where the officer asks him, what were you doing at the Target? And this is, by the way, also where the officer learns who Correa is.
Do you have an ID on you?
Yeah. I live in Bisbee.
What's that?
I live in Bisbee now.
In Bisbee? Is this your car?
Yeah.
Okay. What's a good address for you in Bisbee?
In the race for Mikey Sherrill's house seat, there's one Democrat.
Sorry about that. It's commercials. It was a long one.
So you're here shopping?
Yeah.
Did you buy anything?
Yes.
What did you buy?
A bunch of chocolate balls and stuff. It's for an office party tonight.
Oh. Where do you work?
I work at the Cochise County Attorney's office.
Oh, okay. What's a good telephone number for you? Are you an attorney? Are you a paralegal? Or
Yeah, I'm the Chief Civil Deputy County Attorney.
Okay.
This guy's got me completely wrong. I understand. I'd be upset too.
And then as the officer tries to get a better sense of what happened here, Correa says, and this is pretty remarkable, if he had a gun, he would have shot the father.
So there's no altercation, there's no contact between the two of you guys in the store. But at what point did he tell you, or did you hear an allegation that he thought you were filming his daughter?
He came bang on my door just now. I've been sitting here for a minute, like trying to figure out what to do about dinner for my kid. He says, I'm in here.
And at this point, we all know what he was doing when he was sitting there for a minute.
In my car, I'm like, I don't know where he gets that. Okay.
Great. All right. As far as you know, did you see him in the store with a daughter? Or,
I don't know who he is.
You don't know.
I don't know.
The first that you hear of anything is right here at the car. He's banging on your window.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hang tight with my partner, Officer Thompson, real quick. Let me go talk to him and get his side of the story. Obviously, until we're done here, you're not free to go.
Right. Sure. I'm fine.
Figure out. There's no physical altercation between you and him in the parking lot here. It's just he's.
Well, I tried to close my door. He prevented me from closing my door. I told him you're breaking the law.
Okay, well, I'll go talk to him.
He pulled my door open. He's breaking the law. If I had a firearm, my firearm with me right now, I would have shot the guy.
And then Correa appears to invoke the castle doctrine form of self-defense under the law, by the way, which is the idea when you're in your home and potentially even in your car, so your property, you don't have to run away, but you can use physical force, maybe even deadly force, to protect yourself or someone else from immediate physical harm. The trick of that is it has to be reasonable under the circumstances. And someone opening your car door, that could be a tough one if there's not something else there. But, you know, if a guy blocks you, opens the door, maybe there's an argument that you were in reasonable fear for your life. Maybe there's something there. But that's kind of a side issue. Thankfully, didn't even get to that. Here's what happens, though, in this case. After the allegation that he recorded this minor girl in the Target, reportedly, by the way, 12 years old, and then was watching the video with his pants disheveled, reportedly out in the parking lot, He was criminally charged and he was fired. He was charged with evidence tampering, harassment by surveillance, and public sexual indecency. Why? This is where I have to read you some new details from the responding officer's police incident report, because there's one thing from the body cam, what it shows you. This is what the officer allegedly observed. Quote, as I contacted Correa, he exited the vehicle and immediately started to manipulate the waistband of his pants. His left hand was not visible behind his person as he appeared to pull up on the back of his pants, and his right hand was in his pocket. I directed him to stop digging around in his waistband and pocket and to come to the front of his car. Correa then pulled his shirt down over his pants. I observed the front zipper of his pants was partially unzipped and the zipper pull was protruding from the fabric flap area as if his pants had been undone. So if you need me to spell it out here, from here, Correa, as you kind of saw in the body cam, claimed that the father, identified as Jason in the paperwork, had accused him of essentially pleasuring himself to the video. So then the officer speaks to Jason, right? What's his perception on all this? Here's his narrative. Quote, I contacted Jason, who provided the following account. His wife, Stacy, and their daughter were shopping at Target. Jason was not present with them at Target and was at their residence. While at the store, Redacted, so this is the minor girl, Redacted, became upset and called Jason, stating that a man had been following her around the store and recording her with his phone. Jason stated that Redacted told him she attempted to move away from the man, but he continued to follow her. At one point, Redacted reportedly saw the man's phone screen, which she believed was recording her. Jason stated that after being notified of what occurred, he drove to the Target parking lot. When he got to Target, he located the man, later identified as Paul Correa, sitting in a vehicle. Jason said he blocked Correa's vehicle with his own to prevent him from leaving and approached Correa's car. Jason stated that he banged on the window and observed Correa looking at his phone. Jason described that he believed Correa was essentially pleasuring himself.
No.
Jason visually demonstrated how Correa was sitting, showing that he was holding a phone in one hand and had the other hand under his clothing over his as if he was touching his own. Jason reported that Correa appeared startled, put his phone down, and adjusted his pants. Jason stated that he could see Correa was holding a phone and observed there was a video of Jason's daughter playing on Correa's phone. So at first glance, you might be saying, okay, he shows up to the Target. It's, secondhand knowledge. He's just hearing from what his daughter said. He didn't see what was happening in the Target. This is now a firsthand account of what was allegedly happening in the parking lot. Allegation, but still. So after speaking with the wife here, the mother of this young girl, the officer speaks to her as well, who, by the way, provided kind of a similar account to the daughter. The officer then speaks to Correa again to get his side. Now he's asked, okay, did you film anyone in the store? And Correa allegedly responded to the officer, quote, of course not. But then he was asked if he was filming a 12-year-old, to which Correa allegedly responded, according to the officer, I have no awareness of, and then didn't finish the sentence. Now, again, Correa denied that he was doing anything in his car. He called the accusations from Jason BS. The thing about it is, the officer reportedly asked Correa to look at his phone. And Correa, according to the officer, was not only hesitant, but then stated that there were private things on his phone. Here's the important point. So you're hearing the account from these different people, right? The witness statements. What about the digital evidence? While all of this is going on, police are apparently looking at surveillance video from inside the store. And according to this report, it says, quote, I was advised that there was surveillance video from at least one of the cosmetic aisles that showed Correa was in fact appearing to video record a female who was shopping. Now, the thing about that, the officer says it wasn't the 12-year-old girl in question that we've been talking about. No, the video allegedly shows Correa filming another girl appearing to be of the same age. Quote, Correa can be seen holding a black phone with an active video recording in progress depicted by a bright red bar at the top of the screen. This contradicts Correa's statement that he had not filmed anyone in the store. There was additional surveillance video showing Correa in the aisle with Redacted, just as described, both holding his phone to his chest, down at his side, pointing back toward Redacted. And more specifically, they have descriptions of the actual surveillance videos, and there's one that says Correa is seen near the skincare lotion items. There is a female appearing to be a juvenile at the end of the aisle in a squatting position, looking at merchandise at a low display. Correa walks by her one side of the aisle. Correa is holding the red handbasket in one hand, and in his right hand, it's not visible on the video. Correa then re-enters the aisle several seconds later and is seen holding a phone in his right hand with his arm extended straight down against his right leg, with the back camera of the phone appearing to be pointing out. Correa walks within several feet of the female, pointing the back camera toward her the entire time. Correa then looks over at her, standing several feet away. The female starts to leave the aisle, and Correa walks closer to her, still pointing the back camera of the phone towards her. And then there are descriptions of just specific videos, again, what he was allegedly doing. I got to mention video 12. Video 12 is what he was allegedly doing in the parking lot. Okay, so there's one thing from what the father claims happened. This is what officers say the video shows. Quote, Correa appears to be the only person in the vehicle. You can see into the vehicle as there's no tint on the windows. The detail is hard to make out in the video, but there appears to be sustained movement that occurs in the driver's seat. So what happens next? Well, Correa is informed that Target is issuing him a trespass notice, meaning he can't come back there for a year. And he's also told by police that his phone is being seized as evidence in an investigation into public sexual indecency. They actually find out he's got two phones and both are taken. You go to the next day, December 18th, and according to law enforcement, there was probable cause to arrest Correa as a stalking suspect now. They find Correa's car traveling, coming off the interstate and going onto a highway. But then, according to police, Correa allegedly spots the police and immediately goes back onto the interstate. Now, they eventually are able to track him down. They perform a high-risk traffic stop. He's put in handcuffs. He's arrested. He's ultimately charged with the following. So you have sexually motivated harassment. It's a misdemeanor. One count of public sexual indecency, another misdemeanor. And then tampering with evidence. That's a class 6 felony. It's the least serious felony, but could, maybe get 1 year in prison. But that's for, according to the filings here, allegedly trying to get rid of or getting rid of photos and videos in this case. Now, I will say the surveillance footage coupled with the eyewitness accounts, arguably at first glance, devastating evidence, compelling evidence. Also, his allegedly odd and maybe arguably suspicious behavior with police. That's not going to help his case. Oh, I said he was fired, right? So this is a statement from the Cochise County Attorney's Office. It says, Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco today announced the immediate termination of Paul Correa, Chief Civil Deputy County Attorney, following an investigation by the Sierra Vista Police Department. After being informed of the nature of the allegations and meeting with Sierra Vista Police Department this morning, Zucco made the decision to terminate Correa's employment immediately. She also met with the victims, Sierra Vista Police Department command staff, and Sheriff Mark Daniels this afternoon prior to Correa's termination. The allegations in this case are deeply disturbing, particularly for an officer of the court and public employee entrusted with the public's confidence. Zucco said, as a career prosecutor for more than 20 years, I have zero tolerance for alleged conduct that so fundamentally violates the standards of this office. While Mr. Correa is entitled to due process in the criminal justice system, he can no longer serve in any capacity in my office. Zucco, who was elected by Cochise County voters in November of 2024, emphasized that the termination reflects the seriousness of the allegations and the obligation of her office to maintain the highest professional and ethical standards. And by the way,
in the playoffs,
of interest, clearly the criminal case, conflict of interest, clearly the criminal case and ethical standards. And by the way, due to a conflict of interest, clearly the criminal case had to be sent over to a different prosecutor. It's now being handled by the La Paz County Attorney's Office.
All right. Okay, so we have a lot to break down here. It's a great video. Thank you, Law and Crime. If you guys get a chance, please like it. I had to borrow it just for the context. But now I'm going to break down everything from what they discussed, his background, all the way up to possible dates for his next appearance in court. And by the way, I do have some updated information that will partner well with what we just watched. So, for nearly 3 decades, Paul Correa built a reputation as a skilled and respected attorney in the Arizona legal community. After graduating cum laude from the University of Arizona in the early 1990s, he went on to earn his law degree from the same institution in 1996, where he served as managing editor of the Arizona Journal of International and Comparative Law. His career trajectory suggested someone destined for influence and respect within the state justice system. Correa's professional journey took him through some of Arizona's most prestigious legal positions. He clerked for U.S. District Judge Frank R. Zapata before joining Quarles and Brady, a large national law firm. As an assistant attorney general for the state of Arizona, he defended state agencies, the Department of Public Safety, and 3 state universities against a wide range of civil lawsuits, from constitutional claims to wrongful death cases, use of force allegations, and commercial tort disputes. He also served in the U.S. Army Reserves from 1987 to 1994. By December of 2025, the 59-year-old attorney had risen to become Chief Civil Deputy County Attorney for Cochise County, one of the highest-ranking positions in the county attorney's office. He was the head of the civil division, overseeing major litigation and providing legal guidance to county officials. Licensed to practice in both Arizona and Washington, and admitted to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, Correa seemed to embody the professional standard expected of an officer of the court. But there were cracks in the facade. In 2023, a judge sanctioned Correa in a case involving a deed claim, reportedly for telling the county treasurer to ignore a judicial order. Earlier in 2025, he was cited for allegedly driving around a police barricade. And these incidents, while relatively minor, suggested someone who believed rules applied differently to him. A dangerous mindset for someone in a position of power. Now, before we break down the incidents, I do have some added information. I want to show you just another video. This comes from the local news. I actually want to show 2. This one's 3 weeks ago, soon after the incident occurred, because that was December 17th. And then there's one from the news from 3 days ago. So I want to get that. I want to show you guys these videos.
Cochise County Chief Civil Deputy Paul Correa was immediately terminated yesterday following his arrest for public sexual indecency. 13 News reporter Renee Romo joins us in studio now. And Renee, you spoke with the county and city of Sierra Vista on this. What do we know so far?
Well, Mary, Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco announced late yesterday evening that Correa had been fired effective immediately. The why, however, came nearly 2 hours later from the Sierra Vista Police Department, who is leading the investigation. SVPD spokesperson Corporal Janae Siege says officers were told Correa was following an underage girl around a Target store and that she thought he was recording her. The young girl's father approached Correa, who was in his car, and claims to have seen Correa watching a video of the underage girl with his pants disheveled. After seizing Correa's personal and work phones and obtaining a search warrant, SVPD and the Cochise County Sheriff's Office located and arrested Correa on Thursday afternoon. He has been booked into the Cochise County Jail with charges of evidence tampering and public sexual indecency. Zucco tells me she was immediately notified by SVPD.
Watching the body-worn camera with the 12-year-old victim, and then, of course, meeting with her parents, just really it made the decision very easy for me.
While Zucco believes that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, her prior experience drove her decision to no longer have Correa as a part of her office.
Personally, I have been a sex crimes prosecutor for more than 20 years. I kind of pride myself on my work for victims.
Due to the conflict of interest for Zucco's office, the La Paz County Attorney's Office will handle the case, but Siege tells me SVPD will continue to be lead investigators.
Our detectives are still investigating the incident. I think the conflict of interest would be within the prosecution side of things, and that's why they conflicted out to the other county.
I asked Zucco about Correa's past run-ins with law enforcement, like speeding tickets and driving around a police barrier, and she says these incidents are worlds apart, but adds that she spoke with all of Correa's staff yesterday.
And, we asked them, was there any indication of something like this? And to a person, women that have worked with him for years just said, no, absolutely not.
Now, Correa played a major role in helping a lot of the attorney's office's clients, but Zucco tells me she believes they will be fine in terms of their continuation of services for their clients.
I do want to show you one more video. It's from 3 days ago. Now, mind you, even though she worked with sex crimes, guys, sometimes the people's closest to us, we see the position and not the person. And predators, they're good at hiding behind the position. And it makes us look at the position first and be shocked when the person did that. And it's not so much about the person. It's the fact that they had this position. You see it in households. As I said earlier, you see it in sometimes schools, religion. They get these positions of trust. They hide behind the position. So you don't see the person, you see the position. And that kind of blinds you a bit. But in this case here, she acted immediately, and bravo. I want to show you one more video. And this one's from 3 days ago. And that is this one right here. It's a little shorter. Wait, where is it? 3 weeks ago. I saw one. Oh, this one's the one from 3 days ago.
I was there.
This is when they caught when the body-worn camera footage was released. So let me go ahead and show you this video real quick.
Lean up against your car.
Why?
Because I'm telling you to.
We're getting new video into our newsroom of the confrontation between police and a former Cochise County Chief Civil Deputy Attorney. We first brought this to you last month when Paul Correa was charged with public sexual indecency after being accused of filming a minor in Sierra Vista at a Target store and then watching the video in the parking lot with his pants, as police called it, disheveled.
He has since been fired from his position at the Cochise County Attorney's Office and indicted on criminal charges. 13 News reporter Catherine Patterson joins us in studio now.
Catherine, you went through the video from the Sierra Vista Police Department. What did you find?
Mary Brooke, these are the moments on December 17th, right after Sierra Vista Police got a call of disorderly conduct at a local Target when the father of a young girl in that parking lot accused Correa of the unthinkable.
Hi, how are you doing?
These are the first few moments of contact between former Chief Civil Deputy Paul Correa and Sierra Vista Police at the Sierra Vista Target parking lot. The officer noted that when he approached, Correa immediately tried to manipulate the waistband of his pants.
Something around your waistband. Come to the front of your car.
The officer then starts to ask Correa about an argument he was having with a man just a few minutes prior.
He thinks that I was in the store recording his daughter with my phone. That's not true.
But court documents detailing the incident say otherwise. Police detail security footage in the Target that shows Correa walking within several feet of multiple females, pointing the back camera toward them the entire time. Then after paying for his items, went out to his car where he was confronted by one of those young girls' fathers.
He says, I'm in your off in my car. I'm like, I don't know where he gets that.
Correa says he was instead at the store to buy gifts for an office holiday party.
Where do you work?
I work at the Cochise County Attorney's Office.
His former boss, Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco, said she got to watch the full body camera video the day after it was recorded.
That was part of what my decision was to terminate Mr. Correa.
Because her office will not be investigating the case, she had this to say about what all happened that night.
I am so proud of that victim who came forward and advocated for herself. She exposed Mr. Correa for what he was, and this whole community owes a debt to her.
Zucco says they are looking to hire a new chief civil deputy in the upcoming months. The case is currently being handled by the La Paz County Attorney. Reporting live in studio, Catherine Patterson, 13 News.
And she really is a hero, because what would happen when that fantasy isn't enough and he decides to take one of those girls? Okay, so I got some information. I'm going to add a lot to go over here, but I'm going to add a little bit more details to what happened that day. Talk about the charges he could possibly be facing. So we're learning this together. This is just through my research. And again, get some comments and just discuss the case. So December 17, 2025, we have an evening at Target, right? The incident that would destroy Paul Correa's career and reputation began unremarkably on a Tuesday evening in Sierra Vista, Arizona. At approximately 6:20 p.m., a Target employee working at the store on the 4100 block of East Highway 90 placed a 911 call. The initial report seemed mundane. A vehicle was blocking another vehicle in the parking lot, creating a minor disturbance. What officers from the Sierra Vista Police Department discovered when they arrived was far more sinister. Inside the store, something had alarmed a mother shopping with her 12-year-old daughter. In the cosmetics aisle, she noticed a middle-aged man holding his phone in an unusual manner. The camera appeared to be pointed at her child. Her maternal instincts flared. She alerted store security immediately, expressing concerns that the man had videotaped her daughter. The girl's father, also at the store, took action. He began searching for the suspect, scanning the aisles, and finally spotting him heading towards the parking lot. This makes a little bit more sense. It goes to show you how he knew what he looked like. This does fill in that gap that was mentioned in Law and Crime. The father followed, and what he witnessed next would become a critical piece of evidence in the case. In the parking lot, the father located the man sitting in his vehicle. Through the car window, he observed something deeply disturbing. The man was watching what appeared to be a video on his phone, and his pants were disheveled. The father's confrontation with the stranger created the parking lot disturbance that prompted the target employee's 911 call. When Officer Zachary Matarang arrived on scene, he was approached by the agitated father, who explained what he witnessed. The officer proceeded to the vehicle where Paul Correa sat, and according to Matarang's report, as he approached to speak with Correa, the attorney immediately started to manipulate the waistband of his pants. Now we have the body camera evidence and the denial in the face of the accusation, which is what we just saw. The body camera footage from that evening, later obtained by media outlets, captures a telling exchange. Correa, a seasoned attorney who had cross-examined countless witnesses and argued before judges for nearly 30 years, adopted a tone of incredulous denial. He thinks that I was in the store recording his daughter with my phone. That's what Correa asked the officers, his voice conveying disbelief at the accusation. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. That word absolute. Be careful of those words, absolute. Absolute is a definitive word, but just be very careful when that word is employed. I was here buying gifts for a holiday party. What would make them think that you are recording things? That I have my phone out, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what he thinks. It was calculated response, questioning the father's perception, offering an innocent explanation for having the phone out. But Officer Matarang had more than just the father's word. The Target store had extensive surveillance coverage, and store security had already flagged the incident. What the surveillance footage would eventually reveal contradicted everything Correa told the officer that night. The high-resolution cameras captured Correa not just filming one juvenile female, but multiple young girls throughout the store. According to court documents that would later be filed, the footage shows Correa walks within several feet of the female, pointing the back camera towards her the entire time. This wasn't an accidental recording or something simply having their phone out. This was deliberate, targeted surveillance of children. Now, guys, this is probably just not his first time either. Probably not his first time even at that Target. I mean, wait till they probably discover what's in his phone, because he probably tried to delete it. That's where the evidence concern comes in. But they'll look in and they'll probably be able to locate other times he's been doing this. There may be more charges for this guy coming. This may not be just the only incident. The officer made a critical decision that night. He seized both Correa's personal cell phone and his work-issued phone devices that likely contained the evidence of what Correa had been doing. The phones would be crucial. SFPD detectives immediately began the process of obtaining a search warrant to examine their contents. But Correa wasn't arrested that night. He was allowed to leave, and in the hours that followed, investigators worked to build their case, reviewing the surveillance footage and preparing for what would come next. Okay, and that moves us to December 18, 2025. Now we have the arrest. The following afternoon at approximately 3:45 p.m., a coordinated law enforcement operation unfolded in Benson, Arizona. The Sierra Vista Police Department, working in conjunction with the Cochise County Sheriff's Office, or Cochise County Sheriff's Office, had located Paul Correa. What happened next was unusual for someone at Correa's professional standing, a high-risk traffic stop. These stops, typically reserved for suspects believed to be armed or particularly dangerous, involve multiple officers, drawn weapons, and careful tactical positioning. The decision to conduct a high-risk stop suggested law enforcement viewed Correa as either a flight risk or potentially dangerous, or both. Hey, he did admit that he had a gun, right? So who knows if he has a gun with him? We don't know, but he did admit to owning one. And he did admit in that when someone went to, if that father would open the door, he would have shot him. So I think the high risk was perfectly suitable. Correa was taken into custody without incident and transported to the Cochise County Jail. He was booked on charges of public sexual indecency and tampering with evidence. So I'm assuming he tried to erase the videos. That's what I'm thinking when it comes to the evidence. By the time Correa was behind bars that Thursday evening, his boss had already been notified, and County Attorney Lori Zucco was not pleased. So now you have the swift justice, right? So a 20-year prosecutor takes action. Lori Zucco had just been elected as Cochise County Attorney in November 2024, taking office with a reputation as a tough, experienced prosecutor. She brought more than 20 years of experience to the position with a particular expertise in sex crime prosecution. She had seen the worst of human behavior, had fought for victims, and had zero tolerance for anyone, especially someone in her own office who would victimize children. On the morning of December 18, 2025, Zucco was briefed by the Sierra Vista Police Department about the allegations against her chief civil deputy. She requested to see the body camera footage. Then she did something that demonstrated the kind of prosecutor she was. She met personally with the victims, the 12-year-old girl, and her parents. What Zucco heard and saw that day left no room for ambiguity in her mind. By that afternoon, she made her decision. Paul Correa was fired, immediately terminated from his position as Chief Civil Deputy County Attorney. Zucco's public statement was direct and uncompromising, as we heard. The allegations in this case are deeply disturbing, particularly for an officer of the court and public employee entrusted with the public's confidence. As a career prosecutor for more than 20 years, I have zero tolerance for alleged conduct that so fundamentally violates the standards of this office. While Mr. Correa is entitled to due process in the criminal justice system, he can no longer serve in any capacity in my office. In interviews with local media, Zucco expanded on her decision. Watching the body-worn camera with the 12-year-old victim, and then, of course, meeting with her parents, just made the decision very easy for me, she explained. Personally, I have been a sex crime prosecutor for more than 20 years. I kind of pride myself on my work for victims. But Zucco also took a moment to praise the young victim whose courage had exposed Correa's behavior. I am so proud of that victim who came forward and advocated for herself. She exposed Mr. Correa for what he was, and this whole community owes a debt to her. She could have saved lives. I want that to be out there. That young girl could have easily saved lives. Who knows when that fantasy stops working, what would be the next step? Zucco also acknowledged the inherent conflict of interest in her office prosecuting one of its own senior attorneys. The case was reassigned to La Paz County Attorney Rachel Shackelford, with coordination arranged through the Arizona Prosecuting Attorneys Advisory Council, that's APAAC. The Sierra Vista Police Department would continue to lead the investigation, with Detective Thomas Ransford handling the case. So let's talk about the criminal charges. Prosecutors with the La Paz County Attorney's Office have charged Correa with 3 separate offenses, each carrying serious potential consequences. So count 1 is tampering with physical evidence. Under Arizona Revised Statute 13-2809, tampering with physical evidence is a Class 6 felony. The statute makes it illegal to destroy, mutilate, alter, conceal, or remove physical evidence with the intent to impair its availability or validity in an official proceeding. In Correa's case, this charge likely stems from whatever he did or attempted to do with his phones or the videos after his encounter with police. Digital forensics can often detect deletion attempts and any evidence that Correa tried to destroy recordings after confrontation with the father or police would support this charge. For a first-time offender convicted of a non-dangerous Class 6 felony in Arizona, the sentences ranges from mitigated, so that's approximately 4 months, minimum half year, presumptive 1 year, maximum 1.5 years, aggravated 2 years, fines up to $150,000. Under certain circumstances, a Class 6 felony can be designated as a Class 1 misdemeanor at sentencing, which would reduce the maximum penalty to 6 months in jail and a $2,500 fine. However, given the nature of the underlying conduct alleged here, such a reduction seems unlikely because there's context, a greater context here. The irony is stark. Correa, as chief civil deputy, would have regularly advised county officials about evidence preservation obligation in litigation. Now he stands accused of destroying evidence to protect himself from prosecution. And then you have count 2, harassment with special allegations of sexual motivation. Arizona harassment statute is ARS subsection 13-2921, makes it illegal to engage in conduct that harasses, annoys, or alarms another person. Specifically relevant to this case, the statute criminalizes surveilling another person or causing them to be surveilled for no legitimate purpose. Correa had been charged with harassment, and prosecutors have filed a special allegation under ARS subsection 13-118 that the harassment was committed with sexual motivation. This allegation requires the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that one of Correa's purposes is surveilling the juvenile was his own sexual gratification, which came when they discovered him in the car. And then you have the context from what the officer said in his report, as well as what the father saw. You got the video. You got the officer saying he was moving the waistband. Father said his pants was disheveled. So there's context there that can add to that charge to utilize sexual motivation, but they're going to have to focus on what they caught when he was in the car. The base harassment offense is typically a class 1 misdemeanor punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $2,500. However, the sexual motivation allegation under subsection 13-118 carries significant additional consequences, even though it doesn't automatically reclassify the underlying offense as a felony. A finding of sexual motivation can enhance sentencing consideration, create potential sex offender registration exposure, depending on the specific circumstances and judicial findings, establish a pattern for any future offenses, and impact conditions of probation or supervised release. The target surveillance footage would be the prosecution's primary evidence on this count. According to reports, the cameras captured Correa walking through the store with his phone positioned to record, following young girls and positioning himself within several feet of them. The footage allegedly shows him pointing his phone's rear camera directly at the juveniles, behavior inconsistent with someone simply shopping or using their phone for legitimate purposes. So that on top of, I still think the car, what he did in the car and the description of how it's written. Public sexual indecency, that's count 3. So under Arizona revised statutes, subsection 13-1403, public sexual indecency involves intentionally or knowingly engaging in sexual contact, sexual intercourse, oral sexual contact, or bestiality when another person is present and the defendant is reckless about whether that person, as a reasonable person, would be offended or alarmed. The statute defines sexual contact broadly to include any direct or indirect touching, fondling, or manipulating of the genitals, anus, or female breast. Critically, the law distinguishes between public sexual indecency committed in the presence of adults versus minors. So you have public sexual indecency, that's adults present, class 1 misdemeanor. Public sexual indecency to a minor under 15 present, class 5 felony. The allegation in this case that Correa was watching video of the children with his pants disheveled in the Target parking lot forms the basis for the sexual contact element. If a minor was present or nearby when this occurred, or if the court finds Correa was reckless about whether a minor might be present in a Target parking lot in the early evenings, this charge could be prosecuted as a class 5 felony. It's a Target parking lot. It's a Target parking lot. For a first-time offender convicted of a non-dangerous class 5 felony in Arizona, the sentence ranges from mitigated, so that's half year, minimum 3/4 of a year, that's 9 months, presumptive 1.5 years, maximum 2 years, aggravated 2.5, fine up to $150,000. If Correa had prior felony convictions, the penalties would escalate significantly, with prison becoming mandatory rather than optional, and sentences increasing substantially. Now, guys, when you're in a position of trust and you violate it, there's usually zero tolerance there. You're usually held to that higher level. So hopefully they stay true to that. Now, the specter of sex offender registration, I thought this would be interesting. Beyond prison time and fines, perhaps the most devastating long-term consequence Correa could face is sex offender registration. I believe this should definitely apply here. Again, we only know of the Target incident. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff that's going to come out through that digital evidence. Under Arizona revised statute, subsection 13-382(1), sex offender registration becomes mandatory in specific circumstances. For public sexual indecency convictions, registration is mandatory for a second or subsequent conviction for public sexual indecency to a minor under 15 years of age, and registration is mandatory for a third or subsequent conviction for public sexual indecency, regardless of whether minors were present. For a first-time offense like Correa appears to be, registration is not automatically mandated by statute. However, courts retain discretion to order registration in cases involving sexual motivation findings under subsection 13-118, particularly when the underlying conduct targeted minors. And granted, we don't know how many minors were on that phone that they confiscated just in that target alone. It looks like he was going after multiple girls. That should each be a count. I think this person is extremely dangerous. If ordered to register as a sex offender, Correa would face public online registry listing with his name, photograph, address, and offense details, restrictions on where he can live, so distance requirements from schools, park, daycare centers, restrictions on where he can work, prohibition from certain public spaces where children congregate, regular reporting requirements to law enforcement, potentially quarterly or more frequently, community notifications in some circumstances, and registration requirements that could extend for decades or life, depending on the offense level. This is going to be interesting when this gets presented to see how many charges are going to come up. And knowing someone like this, he may not want this to go to trial because he's not going to want to get exposed. So I can guarantee there even could be a plea. But we'll get to that. I have that as we further down. Even if Correa were to serve a relatively short sentence and eventually be released, sex offender registration would create a permanent digital record that would make employment nearly impossible, destroy personal relationships, and mark him publicly as a sex offender for the remainder of his life. The sexual motivation allegation under subsection 13-118 significantly increases the likelihood that a court would exercise its discretion to impose registration, particularly given that the alleged conduct targeted multiple juvenile victims. Maximum potential exposure. If Correa were convicted on all three counts and the court imposed consecutive sentences rather than concurrent, the theoretical maximum exposure would be tampering with evidence, that's a class 6 felony for up to 2 years, aggravated. Harassment up to 6 months, that's class 1 misdemeanor plus sexual motivation consequences. Public sexual indecency to a minor, that's a class 5 felony up to 2.5 years, aggravated. And fines up to $302,500 combined across all charges. Total maximum consecutive exposure, approximately 5 years in prison plus substantial fines and potential lifetime sex offender registration. However, several factors make this worst case scenario unlikely. Mitigating factors: Correa appears to be a first-time offender with no prior criminal records, his age 59 and prior clean record, his professional background and contributions to the legal community, and sentencing guidelines typically favor presumptive rather than aggravated terms for first-time offenders. Yes, but I have a feeling this is the first time they caught him. That doesn't mean he's a first-time offender. This is the first time they caught him. And look at how many he got, just a one target. There's multiple victims. How long was he at the target for? That's interesting. How long was he at the target for? So some people think that the more realistic scenario is courts often run sentences concurrently, and we know that to be true, at the same time rather than consecutively. First-time offender status typically results in sentences closer to the mitigated or presumptive range, but I believe you also held to a higher standard, and people expect more when that position of trust is violated. And I think criminal justice system, they know that. Plea negotiations could result in charge reduction or dismissals, and a realistic sentence upon conviction might range from 1 to 3 years in prison, potentially with some portions suspended in favor of probation. You know what? Sometimes something like this, because there is a position of trust that's been violated, there should be no plea, actually. Should be no plea deal. It should be, you know what? We're going the distance with the guy, just to let people know, the public, that, you know, it doesn't matter what position. If you cross the line, you cross the line. And we're going to make an example out of him because that person was in a position of trust and they just violated that position of trust. And now the funny thing is, it's crazy, but it's tough, because if he was responsible for a bunch of cases, could those also be relooked at? Because now his integrity is in question. You know, once someone's integrity is in question, it could open up a door to a whole list of concerns. Like, this is the person that was the head of a division. And if their integrity is in doubt, ripple effect. Plea bargain considerations. So again, for Correa, the calculation of whether to accept a plea deal versus proceeding to trial involves weighing significant risks and potential benefits. So a plea agreement might offer reduction of felony charges to misdemeanors, dismissal of one or more counts, an agreed upon sentence recommendation that could include probation, potentially avoiding or minimizing sex offender registration exposure, and avoiding the public exposure of a trial where all evidence becomes public record. However, any plea will require Correa to admit guilt and accept a criminal conviction, accept an end to his legal career, create a permanent criminal record, likely surrender his law license, and give up his right to appeal. Going to trial offers the possibility of acquittal, but carries substantial risk. If convicted on all counts, the court would have no obligation to show leniency. All evidence, surveillance footage, body camera video, phone contents, testimony about his disheveled appearance would become public. Media coverage would be extensive and detailed. The jury might impose harsher punishment after seeing all evidence, and conviction at trial typically results in sentences at or above the presumptive term. For many defendants in Correa's position, particularly those with professional reputations to lose, the combination of strong evidence, potential public humiliation at trial, and uncertainty of outcome makes a plea agreement the more attractive option, even though it requires accepting conviction. And they kind of like disappear. But I don't think there should be one offered here. I think this person has to be made an example of because he violated a position of trust. And I think Lori Zucco may do that, even though she's not really involved. Sorry, I forgot. She's not going to be doing it anyway. It got passed. It got passed to the other. It got passed to the other prosecutor side. Sorry, guys, made a mistake on that. I got so into Lori Zucco. The evidence against him. As the case proceeds, prosecutors have assembled what appears to be a compelling case built on multiple layers of corroborating evidence. So you have the surveillance footage. Target stores are equipped with extensive high-definition camera systems covering virtually every square foot of the sales floor. The footage from December 17th reportedly shows Correa filming not just a 12-year-old girl whose father confronted him, but multiple juvenile females throughout the store. According to court documents, the video clearly shows Correa walking within several feet of young girls with his phone's rear camera pointed directly at them. The position and proximity and deliberate nature of his movements, all captured in high definition, would be powerful evidence for a jury. The father's eyewitness account, the father's testimony carries significant weight. He witnessed Correa in the parking lot sitting in his vehicle watching what appeared to be a video on his phone while his pants were disheveled. For a jury, this creates a visceral and damning image. A high-ranking prosecutor sitting in a Target parking lot watching video of children he just filmed with his clothing in disarray. And then the body camera footage, Officer Matarang body camera captured Correa's initial denial and his demeanor during the encounter. More importantly, it documented the officer's observation that Correa immediately started to manipulate the waistband of his pants when the officer approached, suggesting consciousness of guilt and corroborating the father's account. And the seized phones. Perhaps the most critical evidence would be whatever was found on Correa's personal and work phone after SVPD executed their search warrant. If recordings of the children were recovered, particularly if they show what the father described witnessing, it would directly contradict Correa's claim that he wasn't recording anyone. Additionally, any evidence of deletion attempts after the police encounter would support the tampering charge. Modern digital forensics can often recover deleted files and establish timelines of when deletions occurred, potentially proving both the existence of the video and Correa's attempt to destroy evidence. Now you have the defense denials and due process. So Paul Correa has denied the allegation. His statements to Officer Matarang claiming he was simply shopping for holiday party gifts represents his initial defense posture. As an experienced litigator who has spent nearly 3 decades in courtrooms, Correa understands that the burden of proof rests entirely with the prosecution, and they must prove each element of each charge beyond a reasonable doubt. Potential defense strategies might include challenging the surveillance interpretation. Defense attorneys could argue that the store footage doesn't clearly show Correa filming anyone, that the phone positioning was ambiguous, or that he was using his phone for legitimate purposes. Attacking witness credibility. The defense might suggest the father misinterpreted what he saw, was mistaken about Correa's pants being disheveled, or that his protective instincts colored his perception of an innocent situation. Lack of criminal intent. For the harassment charge, Correa could argue he had no intent to harass anyone and wasn't surveilling anyone, that any recording were accidental or for some legitimate purpose. Fourth Amendment challenges. The defense might challenge the initial seizure of Correa's phone or the search warrant, arguing law enforcement lacked probable cause. There's the due process. That's I'm telling you something. When people are guilty, they attack that due process. That's all they have. So if they could get rid of the evidence of the phone, thank God we still have this surveillance camera from Target. Privacy in vehicle. So for the public sexual indecency charge, the defense could argue that whatever Correa was doing in his own vehicle wasn't truly in public in the way of statute, in the way the statute contemplates. However, these defense faces significant hurdles. The combination of store surveillance showing deliberate recordings of multiple juveniles, the father's eyewitness account, the officer's contemporaneous observations, and likely phone evidence creates multiple corroborating layers that would be difficult to overcome. So why would he do this? So a little bit of the psychology here. For investigators, prosecutors, and the community, perhaps the most troubling question remains why. Why would a successful, respected attorney in his late 50s risk everything to film children in a Target store? And again, it's maybe the first time he got caught. He'd been doing this for quite some time. The answer likely lies in understanding the psychology of sexual offending and voyeuristic behavior, the paradox of respected professionals. So research consistently demonstrates that sexual predators exist across all demographics and professions. Correa's position as a high-ranking prosecutor doesn't insulate him from having deviant sexual interest. In fact, some behavioral experts suggest that individuals in positions of power may develop a sense of invulnerability that emboldens them to act on such impulses. Correa spent years in positions of authority, defending state agencies, advising county officials, wielding the power of his office. He knew the criminal justice system intimately from the inside. This knowledge may have created a false confidence that he could engage in risky behavior without consequences, or that he would know how to evade detection if caught. And then the voyeurism and escalation. The behavior Correa is accused of aligns with voyeuristic disorders, sexual arousals from observant, unsuspected people. While the children Correa allegedly filmed were fully clothed in public store, voyeuristic tendencies can manifest in recording individuals without their consent for later viewing and sexual gratification. What's particularly concerning from a behavioral perspective is where Correa allegedly chose to engage in this behavior. A public Target store during evening shopping hours with extensive surveillance cameras, dozens of shoppers, and attentive parents nearby. This represents extraordinary high-risk offending. That means he can't control the impulse. And that's not to minimize what he's done, but just hear me out. That means the impulse is so overwhelming, he has to get on that immediately. How scary is that? When sex offenders engage in high-risk behavior despite obvious dangers, it typically suggests one of two possibilities: successful patterns of prior offending. They have engaged in similar behaviors many times before without consequences, building false confidence in their ability to avoid detection, maybe filming people from afar too in the car. And compulsive escalation. Their urges have intensified to the point where rational risk assessment is overridden by the compulsion to offend. The fact that Correa allegedly watched the video in the parking lot immediately after filming, rather than wait until he was safely home, suggests compulsive behavior. The need for immediate gratification was apparently more powerful than rational self-preservation. Technology as an enabler. The smartphone has become a powerful enabler for voyeuristic offending. A person can record video or take photos discreetly. The devices are so ambiguous, that word, ubiquitous, they don't draw attention, and the material can be immediately viewed or easily stored for repeated viewing. For someone with voyeuristic impulses, the smartphone represents both temptation and tool, making offending easier, more discreet, and creating a permanent record for future gratification. Now, this is the question of prior behavior. One of the most unsettling questions in this case is whether December 17, 2025 represents Correa's first time engaging in such behavior, and several factors suggest it might not be. The apparent confidence with which he operated in public store, the surveillance footage allegedly showing multiple victims, the immediate viewing in the parking lot suggesting familiarity with this pattern, and the seemingly practiced nature of positioning himself near targets while recording. The forensic examination of Correa's phone may provide answers. If investigators discover additional videos of children, particularly from other locations or dates, it would establish a pattern of behavior. Even if files have been deleted, digital forensics can often recover them, and metadata can establish when and where footage was captured. So remember I said before, the biggest concern is, he no longer gets the thrill from the voyeuristic behavior, and then eventually he may up it a notch. So in offender psychology, this is what I see here. Voyeuristic behavior can escalate in some individuals, especially when the behavior becomes repetitive, which I think this could be. Tolerance develops. The same act no longer produces the same gratification. There's compulsion plus poor impulse control. We see that here. And the person continues despite high risk of being caught. We see that here. When gratification diminishes, some offenders escalate by increasing frequency, increasing risk, more public, closer proximity, and crossing from observation to direct interaction or targeting. He could have been evolving as a predator. That girl's a hero, the girl that reported him, because I think he could have been evolving as a predator. That said, most people with voyeuristic behaviors do not escalate to hands-on offenses. Escalation is a risk factor, not a certainty, and depends heavily on personality structure, prior behavior patterns, substance use, stressors, access to targets, whether intervention occurs. I think because of the above and what I said, it's repetitive. It looks like he had poor impulse control. Also, his high rank, maybe he thought he was untouchable. Maybe that's why he got into working on that side of the criminal justice system. The fact that he's increasing risk, I think he was evolving as a predator, and I think that once that no longer gratified him, he could have evolved into possibly being a very advanced predator, even at that late age. That's just my opinion. I'm not a expert on that matter. I love your thoughts. That's good discussion for us in the comments. Okay, so now institutional response and public reaction. So the swift action taken by County Attorney Lori Zucco represents the best case scenario for institutional accountability. Within hours of learning about the allegations, she reviewed evidence, met with victims, and terminated Correa immediately. She didn't wait for the criminal case to resolve, didn't give Correa the benefit of the doubt due to his position, and didn't allow institutional loyalty to cloud her judgment. Her public statement praising the 12-year-old victim's courage sent an important message that reinforces to other potential victims that they will be believed and supported if they report concerning behavior. The decision to assign the prosecution to La Paz County Attorney Rachel Shackelford ensures there's no appearance of impropriety or conflict of interest, allowing the case to be handled by prosecutors with no personal or professional relationship to Correa. Public reaction based on news coverage has been a mixture of shock, disgust, and calls for accountability. Many expressed particular outrage given Correa's position. He was supposed to uphold the law, not violate it in ways that victimize children. That's why they're going to be held to a higher standard. That's why I think there should be no plea. Go after this person, make this person an example. The Paul Correa's case highlights several important issues that extend beyond this individual prosecution. One is about the ubigut, that word, like basically how you can hide recording. You have the access to the phone, but you can video record people without them knowing. We live in an era where nearly everyone carries a high quality video camera in their pocket. While this technology has beneficial uses, it also has also created new avenues for predatory behavior. Parents and children need to be aware that the stranger pointing a phone in their direction may not be on a call or checking messages. They may be recording. Stores, schools, and other public spaces frequented by children must balance privacy concerns with security needs. The target surveillance footage proves crucial in this case, demonstrating the value of comprehensive camera coverage. And I'm going to tell you something. His impulse or that compulsive behavior was so demanding that he went into a public space and didn't even care about getting caught, in my mind, at that point. Because obviously, when you look at the surveillance camera, you can clearly see him doing this, and he didn't care what the camera showed. He took a shot. I mean, it's such a compulsive behavior that even the cameras that are meant to deter didn't work, because it was more like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, and if they catch me, they catch me. I see that happen all the time, where in corrections, a lot of people will say, well, you know what, you could put technology up and it will deter. Not when the compulsion is greater than the deterrence. It doesn't. When the compulsion is greater than the deterrence, people are going to give a shot, roll the dice, and take the risk. I mean, sure, they don't want to get caught, but they can't control the compulsion. And again, not to minimize, but just to give you an idea. So if the compulsion is greater than the deterrence, I'm going to give it a shot. The importance of parental vigilance. The mother who alerted security when she noticed the man filming her daughter likely prevented additional victimization. Her instincts were correct, and her willingness to speak up to make what could have been an awkward accusation if she'd been wrong likely protected other children. Parents must trust their instincts. If something seems off, a stranger paying too much attention to your child, someone positioning a phone unusually, anyone who seems overly interested in watching or photographing children, it's better to alert security or law enforcement and be wrong than to remain silent. So to be honest with you, the deterrence, the cameras, that's all in partnership of still actively participating and making sure that this doesn't happen. So the mother, what she was able to do, now you can see that the surveillance is in partnership as evidence. It becomes a resource, but you can't rely that as to be the primary for deterrence. You can't, because when people are impulsive, they don't care. When they have that compulsion, they're not going to care. They're going to roll the dice and catch me. So it's great that the mother was on point, that the 12-year-old reported it, and then everything else around it becomes the resource to ensure we get justice. And we need justice for this because we don't know what this person was fully capable of. We don't know what they've done already. We stopped them now, but there's going to be a history, and we'll never know how far he would have went with this. That's the scary thought. The courage of young victims. So County Attorney Zucco praise for the 12-year-old victim wasn't mere platitude. It recognized something genuinely important. When children come forward about concerning adult behavior, they're often doubted, dismissed, or told they're overreacting. The fact that this young girl advocated for herself and that the adults around her believed and supported her provides a model for how these situations should be handled. And again, no one is above the law. Correa's position as chief civil deputy county attorney gave him no immunity from prosecution. If anything, his position makes his alleged conduct more egregious. He was someone entrusted with upholding the law who allegedly violated in ways that victimized children. The legal system's handling of this case sends an important message about whether those in positions of power and authority are truly held to the same standards as everyone else. So what comes next? As of January 2026, Paul Correa's case remains in the pretrial phase. The court will likely address several key issues in the coming weeks and months. So we got the discovery. The defense will receive all evidence prosecutors intend to use, including surveillance footage, body camera video, forensic reports from the phone examinations, and witness statements. Pretrial motions. Correa's defense attorney may file various motions to suppress evidence, dismiss charges, or exclude certain testimonies. The prosecution may file its own motions. And plea negotiation. Most criminal cases resolved through plea agreements rather than trial. The prosecution and defense will likely engage in negotiations where Correa could potentially plead guilty to reduce charges in exchange for a lighter sentence and avoiding the risk of conviction on all counts of a trial. And the public's not going to want to see that. The public's not going to want to see that happen. Again, we need to know more about this guy's history. Trial schedule. If the case doesn't resolve through a plea agreement, the court will set a trial date, likely several months in the future, to allow both sides adequate preparation time. I think there's more to this guy. I think we caught him, but he already was doing it. This wasn't his first and only time, and it looks like they're treating it as if it's his first and only time. They're going to discover more, and then you're going to wind up having to hold things, like hold stuff right now. Don't move, because we got a lot more to come. This may be what we got at the bitter end, but there's a lot more before it. The human cost. Beyond the legal proceedings and potential penalties, this case has already exacted a tremendous human cost. For the 12-year-old girl who was filmed and her family, the psychological impact can be profound. She was victimized in a place that should have been safe, a routine shopping trip to Target. The knowledge that a middle-aged man filmed her without consent, then went to his car to watch the footage, is traumatic. She and her parents will need support and counseling to process what happened. And I think Target will also look at what they, the protection for children in the store. They have a lot of things that children want in those stores. So what are we doing to protect the children that are going to go into those stores? I think that's a fair question to ask. Knowing something like this can happen, if you have a store that invites children, what are we doing to add extra protection so we can stop shit like this from happening? Do we have extra people watching cameras? Do we have people on the floor? When you sell things that family are going to bring their children in, shopping at a Target or Walmart, are we doing a little extra? Can we do a little more to protect those families? Because, sometimes I allow, when I'm walking into the store, I'm going one way. My daughter's 13. She may want to go another way, and then we meet up. But stuff like this says, hey, everybody got to stay close together. Because you just never know. You just never No, sometimes even, when they got to use the bathroom, it's like, okay, go in there, check to see who's in there first, and then let me know. If I'm with my daughters, I'm not going in the woman's room. So I tell them to peek in, make sure it's all good, and then let me know. And then you can go in. And then I kind of stand outside. It's just the world that we're in today. I'm not passing judgment. Just I want my girls to tell me who's in that bathroom before I go in there. I'm sorry, before they go in there. Before they go in there. Because again, they're young, 13 and a 9-year-old, and I'm not going into a woman's bathroom. So I'll be like, hey, just tell me who's in there, and then, okay, it's good. Okay, I'll wait outside. It's kind of like a partnership, but it's where we got to. It's the world has changed. Let me see. So again, for the 12-year-old girl who was filmed in her family, the psychological impact can be profound. She was victimized in a place that should have been safe. A routine shopping trip to Target. The knowledge that a middle-aged man filmed her without consent, then went to his car to watch the footage is traumatic. She and her parents will need support and counseling to process what happened. And there may be other victims, other children Correa filmed that day or on previous occasions who don't even know they were victimized. If additional footage is found on Correa's phone, investigators will face the difficult task of trying to identify and notify those victims of their families. For Correa's family, if he has a spouse, children, or other loved ones, they face the devastating reality that someone they thought they knew has been accused of deeply disturbing conduct. The shame and stigma will affect them even though they bear no responsibilities for his alleged actions. For Correa's former colleagues in the county attorney's office, there's a sense of betrayal. They've worked alongside him, trusted him, relied on him as their chief civil deputy. Learning that he allegedly engaged in this conduct while holding that position undermines that trust, and the broader Cochise County legal community has been shaken. Correa wasn't just any attorney. He was a known figure who had practiced in the area for years and served as a county official. His arrest has created ripple effects throughout the local legal world. So here's some of the unanswered questions before we wrap up. As the case proceeds towards resolution, several critical questions remain. What did forensic examination of the phone reveal? The content of Correa's personal and work phones could be the most significant evidence in this case. If additional videos of children were found, particularly from other locations or dates, it would establish a pattern and strengthen the prosecution's case significantly. We mentioned that. Will there be additional charges if phone evidence reveals other instances of illegal recording or more extensive criminal conduct? Prosecutors could file additional charges. Will Correa ultimately plead guilty or go to trial? The decision will likely depend on the strength of the evidence found on the phone and the terms of any plea agreement offered by prosecutors. Now, if they have concerns with that phone, that's a big evidence for the past. But hopefully, because then whatever you derive from that, unfortunately, may not be able to be used. So hopefully, as I said, it looks like they crossed their T's, dot their I's. They confiscated this phone, but they waited for the search warrant to look through it. So that's smart, because if you find anything on a phone that leads you to other evidence, you want to make sure that you can use what was initially led you that way. So if the defense is able to, stop them from using that phone, saying it wasn't seized properly, or you went through without a warrant, whatever it is, which doesn't look like to be the case, then anything in the past may be hard to go ahead and utilize, because it would be hard for them to say that they didn't get it from the phone. So, if there is stuff on the phone, it looks like they did the right thing. They got a search warrant, and then they're able to see if there's any other places he went, maybe like a Walmart, or if that's the only target. You could have multiple incidences. And then now they got to find out who these young girls are. If there's other girls in these videos, who are these other potential victims? Because they deserve justice, and they didn't even know. So now you're going to have to, if there are other girls on those phones, I think you have to let the victims' families know. So you're going to have to find out who they are. It'll be interesting if people now recognize him, because you never know. Like if someone was watching my daughter, and maybe let's say she didn't tell me, for whatever reason, and then later on she's watching the news and she sees this, she may come up and say, "Dad, I've seen that guy before. He was following me. I just didn't say anything about it." So I think once they put this person's face out there like they're doing right now, you may have other people that may be calling the police and saying, "I know this guy. I was shopping at a Walmart and that person was following me. I just didn't say nothing." But I felt he was doing something, because again, it's, you know what the funny thing is? Sometimes we get so concerned about how we'll be perceived socially that we fail to protect ourselves. You know, it's okay to call somebody and say, "Are you recording me?" Just out of curiosity. And some people are more concerned about being wrong because they don't want to have that awkwardness. You got to be concerned more about being right. You know, if the person was, I'm sorry, I wasn't recording you. Take a look. Here's my phone. Take it. It's yours. I wasn't recording you. I was shopping here and I was on FaceTime with my wife. So take my phone. Look through it. Do whatever you got to do. It's yours. I got nothing to hide. So, I mean, I would tell, you know, people that, you know, they wind up so concerned about social awkwardness that they don't protect themselves. I would advise you protect yourself. If you feel that there's something not right, it's how you approach the person. Hey, are you recording me right now? Out of curiosity, you know, or at least telling your parents so then your parents could approach them. I'm sorry, I don't want to put you in danger. But the key about the discussion is for that person to be approached, you know, for someone to call it out. Because a lot of people are concerned. I said, what if I'm wrong? What if you're right? So the 12-year-old girl is a hero because she went against what the other impulse could be is not say nothing. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? She didn't. She went and told her family, and the family did exactly. They didn't dismiss what the little girl said. They said, hey, let's go check on this. Let's call dad. And dad followed through. And dad saw a predator in action. So that a lot of times we tend not to do the right thing. We're worried about being socially awkward. Fuck that. It's your kid. I mean, I know. I remember I was taking my girls to one of those jumping places, and a mother had lost her child for 1 second, briefly, and she went to where the exit was, and all she did was scream her child's name. And everybody was looking at her like, what is she doing? It's embarrassing. She's smart. She's getting everyone's attention. And usually when there is a predator, they get nervous. They're cowards. They do things in the dark. So all of a sudden now attention's on that child. And it was a very smart move. Who cares about being embarrassed? It's your kid. You know, the predators take advantage of that moment of ambiguity when you're looking for your kid. They know that there's some time and they can get off with your kid. No, not when a parent goes, where's my kid? Oh, hey, where's my kid, John? And causes a scene. So everybody stops and looks. And as I said, everybody was passing judgment. I said, that lady's awesome. She's doing what's supposed to be done. I do that too. If I can't find my kid for a split second at wherever I'm at, I go right to the door and yell her name. So embarrassingly, I don't care. Because either way, if it doesn't stop the predator, she's going to come to me because she's going to feel embarrassed. I don't care about how I'm perceived when it comes to the safety of my kids. And I also would like other people, when it comes to the safety of yourself, who cares how you're perceived? You know, who cares about being socially awkward? Protect yourself, because when you look back, you start to see the things that, oh, I should have said something. And bravo for the 12-year-old and the parents. Will Correa ultimately plead guilty or go to trial? The decision will likely depend on the strength of the evidence found on the phone and the terms of any plea agreement offered by prosecution. What sentence will he face if convicted? Even within the statutory sentencing ranges, judges have significant discretion. Correa's age, lack of apparent prior criminal history, we don't know that yet, though. Hasn't been caught, maybe. And former position in the community could be considered mitigating factors. However, the nature of the offense, targeting children, and his abusive position could be aggravating factors. There you go, aggravating. Will he be required to register as a sex offender? This may be the most consequential long-term question for Correa if convicted, particularly given the sexual motivation allegation and what happens to his law license. The State Bar of Arizona will likely open its own investigation regardless of the criminal case outcome. Even if Correa were somehow acquitted on all charges, the bar could still impose discipline based on conduct on becoming of an attorney. And you got the lessons for the justice system. The Paul Correa case offers several important lessons. Institutional accountability matters. Lori Zucco's swift action in firing Correa and recusing her office from prosecuting him demonstrates how institutions should respond when one of their own is accused of serious misconduct. Too often, organizations close ranks to protect their members. Zucco chose to protect victims and institutional integrity instead, because she's been around the block. She knows. Conflicts must be addressed transparently. The decision to transfer prosecution to an outside county attorney ensures public confidence in the process and protects against any appearance of favoritism or cover-up. And technology cuts both ways. While Correa's allegedly used his phone to record children, the store surveillance cameras and the officer's body camera captured evidence crucial to building a case against him. As technology becomes more, I hate that word, but kind of like subtle, I guess, it creates both new opportunities for offending and new tools for detection and prosecution. And positions and prestige means nothing in the face of evidence. Correa's decades of legal experience and high-ranking positions didn't insulate him from arrest and prosecution when evidence pointed to criminal conduct. The legal system's willingness to prosecute one of its own sends an important message about equal justice. So here's the conclusion, guys. As of January 2026, Paul Correa's case remains unresolved. He awaits further court proceedings, having lost his career, his reputation, and quite possibly his freedom. The 12-year-old victim, who showed remarkable courage in advocating for herself, awaits some measure of justice and closure. The community waits to see how the legal system will handle one of its own who stands accused of violating the public's trust in deeply disturbing ways. What is already clear is that this case represents more than just another criminal prosecution. It's a stark reminder that predatory behavior exists across all demographic and professions. It's a testament to the importance of parental vigilance and the courage of victims who come forward. It's a demonstration of how institutions should respond when faced with allegations against their own members. And it's a cautionary tale about how technology has created new avenues for both offending and detection. It's great when everything's working together. The legal proceedings will eventually conclude with a plea agreement or trial, conviction or acquittal, prison sentence or probation. But the impact of what happened that December evening at a Sierra Vista Target store will reverberate for years to come in the lives of those affected and in the broader conversation about child safety, institutional accountability, and the uncomfortable reality that sometimes the people entrusted with upholding justice are the ones who violate it. For now, the case of Paul Correa serves as a reminder that no position, no professional accomplishment, no years of public service can or should shield someone from accountability when they allegedly prey upon children. And it reminds us that sometimes justice begins not with prosecutors or police, but with the brave 12-year-old girl who recognized that what happened to her was wrong and had the courage to say so, and the family support in the process. There's so much to learn here. I'm going to be following this as it goes forward. Hope you guys like the content. If you do, I do have Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. Link to that's in the description, as well on top of the YouTube channel. All right, guys, more to come. And please stay safe.